Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have the end of Areej Dore week, which on one hand, it's a beautiful day today because I got to wear a very special Areej Dore composition. Worn it as my scent of the day, wore it to work today, and really enjoyed it. And actually I'm going to do a fresh spray for you guys. It is Atlantic Ambergris, the original from 2017. So if you follow my channel, I actually have a review of Atlantic Ambergris 2, which came out in 2021 on the channel, and I want to show you guys this. It's not as thick and heavy as Oud Zen from yesterday, but I mean, just a beautiful, beautiful extrait composition. It's an extrait strength, the original Atlantic Ambergris. So, okay, before we get into the review of Atlantic Ambergris, the OG though, we're going to do some unboxings, because I don't want to put these off. I want to get them opened up, and I also want to show you guys kind of what I've been going for. So the first one was actually a complete surprise to me. Rachel, who is like the queen of Fragcom, she sent me a very kind sample, and I'm going to open this up. She told me what it was, so I have a feeling exactly what's going to be in here, if I remember what she told me correctly. So let's see. Come out, come out. Okay. All right, there we go. So she sent me some samples, and I'll tell you what she sent me as soon as I can get it out of here. So the first one she sent me is an Arquiste fragrance, which is a brand that I actually have a review up on the channel. I think I only have one review from the brand, maybe two, but one or two, not very many. And this is called Indigo Smoke. And Indigo Smoke is apparently a fresh and smoky black tea fragrance, meticulously researched and using the rarest ingredients. Arquiste fragrances transport you to moments in history. I think I talked a little bit about that whenever I did the review on one of the Arquiste fragrances. That smells good from the atomizer. So good stuff. A brand that I'm very excited to get to dive into further. So thank you very much, Rachel. That's very, very kind of you. Always helps. You know, these little discovery atomizers are perfect for someone like me that has a channel, because I don't need more than 7.5 mils to wear and get to know a fragrance, you know. And then she also sent me this, which is very special. This is some very precious drops of Coty's Styx. Coty's Styx from the vintage version. And I'll tell you what, my brother, Russian Adam, has really been into getting to know Coty and wearing his fragrances. And so I need to do more reviews on the house of Coty. So I'm very excited to do that. So you will go right here front and center. I will have to get to you very soon. So thank you very much, Rachel. That is very helpful. Every little bit of juice like that, I promise it'll get put to very good use. So that's the first one. The second one is a bigger box. It is part 3 of the haul from my good friend Hari. And this is the last part of our hauls for a while. Mostly because I need to get to know some of the stuff that I've purchased as of late. And you can only wear so many fragrances in a day. And so, I'll tell you what I kind of went for from Hari. I'll show you what I kind of went for. Let me get this open. The handy dandy unboxing knife. So the first one is actually I think this is a soap. Well, I didn't buy a soap from me. I think he just included it in here. But this is a soap. This is a sandalwood soap. And it's a Mysore sandalwood soap from this company. What's it called? Millennium? Yeah, Millennium. And here's how the soap comes. How about that? Very cool. Very cool stuff. If you're into this kind of stuff. Mysore soap is, or sandalwood soap in general, is very popular, I know, in India and different places throughout the world. So that's good stuff. That's awesome. Thank you, my friend. I usually don't use bar soap, but when it's a special one like that, I definitely will. Okay, so that's the first package. The second one is going to be this. And there's a couple things in here. Well, all right. Come on, knife. You can do it. All right, here we go. So the second is this, which is actually my very first Penhaligons. How about that? This is Halfeti Cedar, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it's Halfeti Cedar, which oh shit, it's leaking? Well, it's not leaking, but it's on the cap. I don't want to get that on my hand and mess up my review. Man, that is strong stuff. I'll have to play with you later. Man, since there's some around sort of the atomizer, I can smell it like, wow, that's strong. So Halfeti Cedar, I actually have no Penhaligons in the collection. So this is the very first Penhaligons in the collection. And there's another Penhaligons that I would love to have one day called, I think it's Petra, if I'm not mistaken. Halfeti. So this is Halfeti Cedar. They also have a leather. And so this is rum, cardamom, peach, and saffron with dried fruits, cinnamon, Virginia cedar, immortelle, and mineral notes with atlas cedar, patchouli, tonka bean, vanilla, and labdanum. So, Penhaligons Halfeti Cedar. All right, so that's the first one. The second one is going to be this. And this is the Bojnokopff. Remember I was talking about this on the stream the other day. This is the Fort and Manle that I said if I was going to get one, this would probably be the one that I would get. And here it is. This is the Bojnokopff in the older packaging. And very nice. The new packaging is nice as well. It is it focuses a little bit more on the cap. Looks like an upside down Reese's Pieces, I think, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. But I enjoyed this. This is good stuff. So Fort and Manle's Bojnokopff, which what did I say? BJ. How do you spell that? BOJO BOJN Boj. Okay, there it is. Yeah, go look at that bottle again and tell me that the top doesn't look like an upside down Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Vanilla, French lavender, oud, cedarwood, and dark chocolate. It was originally known as Bojnokopff's Purple Hat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was originally known as Bojnokopff's Purple Hat, is in the really old bottles. So yes, good stuff. Very excited to get to know that more. I'll do a full review one day soon. And then we've got this, which is, which one are you? The Calling. So this is another one of these Phuong Dang fragrances, which I got to know one called Untamed Oud the other day. I didn't hate it. This one's called The Calling, and The Calling is let's see, The Calling. 2016 release. It's a Bertrand Duchaufour. Spicy, sweet, lavender, rum, cardamom, cumin, green mango, pink pepper, cypress, cinnamon, clary sage, carnation, saffron, gaiac wood, chocolate, sandalwood, tobacco, caramel, vanilla, cedarwood, labdanum, musk, and papyrus. These are very designer smelling. That's the thing about these Phuong Dangs. I don't think they're terrible necessarily, but they're maybe they were terrible for what they were asking, because I think these were like $300, $400, $500. So if you can get these for, I don't know, $50 or something, they're not bad. Okay, and the final package, and then we will get on to Atlantic Ambergris. All right, come on, baby. Come on, baby. So this is a backup for me, actually. Luciano Pavarotti. You guys know how much I love Pavarotti. Never want to be without it. In the 125 mil, and it's my very first Pavarotti that is actually a spray. So I can just spray the shit out of this. All my other ones are, all of my other ones are actually splashes, believe it or not. I fucking love Pavarotti, man. Oh, what a fragrance Pavarotti is. You can never have enough Pavarotti. So I've got the small boy compared to this one. And it actually is the splash. The splish. So you can see my baby one next to the big boy. The splash next to the big boy, the 125 mil. And I've went through basically an entire bottle of Pavarotti, and so this is my second and third bottle. So it's good stuff. Okay, so you are gonna go up in the attic with your friends, with your box friends, and that leaves one more. One final. This is an Opulent Shaik fragrance. Have you guys heard of this one? This is called Opulent Shaik Gold Edition for men. So I actually have one of these, and it's not that bad. It is this one right here. So the one that I have is right here. It's called Shaik number 70. They're trying to do the amouage thing, I think, with sort of the Middle Eastern, you know. This smells very much to me like a take on Creed's, what's it called? I've got it right here. Can't remember the name though. It's Spice and Wood. So it smells very much to me like Spice and Wood, which I'll review this before this bottle's all gone, which there's not very much left, as you can see. But Creed Spice and Wood and Shaik number 70 are two very close, I think. You know, they're very, very close to each other. And this, I don't know what this is like. This is basically a blind buy. Basically a blind buy for me. And the packaging's very nice, though. I'll tell you that. It is very nice packaging. I don't know anything about the scent. Let's see what it says. It says Shaik. So I think they're a Bahrain company, if I'm not mistaken. Opulent Gold Edition for men. So this came out 10 years ago. And it is black pepper, pink pepper, saffron, geranium, lavender, rose, ambergris, oud, sandalwood, tonka bean. Sandalwood and tonka bean. That's it. That's the note breakdown. So yes, good stuff. Yeah, it says Opulent Parfums bottled in Bahrain. Interesting. Crazy nice bottle though. So anyway, so that is And I guess this just sits in here. Let's see, how does this go? I've never seen the packaging like this. Look at this thing. Very cool packaging. It's almost like a leathery suitcase outer, and you can still see the little diamond on top. Crazy, crazy packaging. Okay, so that is my haul from Hari. So that's pretty much it. That's the end of the Hari haul. So thank you, Hari, for everything arrived safe and sound. And thank you for working with me as always. So let us talk about Atlantic Ambergris. So, like I said, I just did a fresh spray for you guys. And it is very, very nice. And I did a video on the original Atlantic Ambergris probably 6 or 8 months ago, whenever Rachel sent me a very kind sample from her bottle of Atlantic Ambergris number 2. And one thing that I will tell you that I learned between now and then is that Russian Adam says that these two, the very first one that came out in 2017 and the relaunch number 2 that came out in 2021, he says are 98% similar. Okay, so that's the first thing. So if you want to get my very initial impression the very first time I smelled it, go check out my review of Atlantic Ambergris number 2. And so the first thing that I will say is when it comes to using ambergris as a note, Russian Adam actually did a video talking about how hard it is to use ambergris as a note. And he talked about it on his YouTube channel, why it's such a tough material to use in a composition, especially one where you're trying to get it to smell the same as something you made years ago. Because apparently, and again, I'm not a perfumer, but listening to Adam talk, he says that if you tincture ambergris today, and then a year from now, you tincture ambergris again, and then a year from now, 2 years from now, you tincture it again, even if it's from the exact same ambergris piece that you have, it'll smell extremely different 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now. The smell constantly evolves. So imagine trying to make a fragrance using ambergris 3, 4, 5 years apart from each other and having to use a different piece of ambergris. It's extremely hard. And by the way, Galen did an interview with an ambergris hunter who claims that it is ambergris. It's not ambergris. You're supposed to actually say the S at the end. So that's why I say it like that. Some people come in and they say, oh, you're saying it wrong. But I used to say ambergris, and then the guy who's an ambergris hunter said, no, actually, it actually is ambergris. So according to him, it is ambergris. So I guess we should talk before we go any further for the people who are new to what ambergris is. So ambergris is basically an animalic note that comes from a sperm whale. So what ends up happening is sperm whales eat squid and cephalopods and stuff like that, and that have some sort of a beak. And that beak can sometimes interact with the inner intestines of the sperm whale. And so what ends up happening is it creates some sort of a reaction inside of the body. Some scientists think it's almost like a spider making a web around a butterfly or a moth that's caught or something. And it literally wraps the beak in this sort of material, and the sperm whale ejects the material. Now, scientists disagree on how that ejection is done. Some think it comes from the front, some think it comes from the back. However it's done, there are many different types of ambergris, or considered types of ambergris. There is black ambergris, which is very fresh out of the sperm whale and almost has no use in perfumery. Not no use, but it's extremely animalic and raw smelling. It hasn't had the time to sort of cook and mature in the ocean. And so black ambergris you rarely see used in perfume. There's brown ambergris, which is sort of the next iteration down, where it has spent some time in the ocean, but maybe the whale was very close to a coast or something whenever it ejected the material, and it washed up on shore very quickly without getting to soak in any of that, any of the seawater and the sun and the salt and the brine and all the stuff that makes ambergris the very prized material that it is. And then there's gray ambergris, and that's literally what the name translates to. Ambergris means gray amber. And So there's gray ambergris, which is another stage of, you know, cooking, you could say, in the sea, and taking in more of that salty water and oceanic feel and all that stuff. So it's gray ambergris. And then probably the most prized, sought after ingredient is white ambergris. That's ambergris that has sat in the ocean for a very long time. And, you know, for whatever reason, either just the way that the currents go, the tides, you know, where in the world the whale was whenever it ejected the material, and depending on how long it takes the Earth's, you know, tides to bring it to land, white ambergris is kind of known as one of the most sought after materials. And according to the Areej Dore website, he says that highly matured white ambergris has no off notes, so it doesn't have that big animalic, you know, smell that brown and black ambergris would have. Its aroma is pristine, fluffy, silky, slightly powdery, sweet, and earthy, with a bottomless oceanic depth that is unique. That's how he describes it, okay? And so, basically, ambergris in this composition, excuse me, adds this very mesmerizing, briny, salty, animalic-like smell. I think it still has some animalic aspects. In my opinion, I think it still has some animalic aspects. But remember, it also has traces of what the whale ate. It was literally inside of the whale's stomach. So there's some animalic aspects to it. It is considered an animalic note, even though it's usually not as, you know, most people don't think of ambergris as an animalic note in the same sense of like castoreum or civet, but it truly is, actually. And so it just adds this like fresh air, you know, vibe to the composition. And with Atlantic ambergris, the ambergris blends with all of the other notes, and it makes it very singular and unique in my experience. Obviously, I've talked about many other ambergris fragrances throughout my journey. Les Indemodables has one called Ambre Supreme, which I really like, and I have a review or an early impression video on the channel of Ambre Supreme. If you like ambergris, that's another one that you could try to sort of check out, but they're two completely different fragrances. Atlantic ambergris and Ambre Supreme are basically two completely different takes on ambergris. And so in the world of perfume, at least to my nose, what I've smelled, I've never smelled a composition like this. This is, like I said, unique and very singular in the world of perfume. I've never smelled a composition that does this, what Atlantic ambergris does with ambergris. And so it opens up very herbal smelling, herbal and slightly green, piney. You know, there's this pine, there's this touch of Russian pine, they say, in the top. And it really does feel like, you know, there's this feeling of forest and, let's say, water right next to each other in the fragrance, okay? So it's almost like, you know how some forests go right up to sort of the water line? That's what it feels like. It feels like there's this water-forest clash. And it is extremely spicy. That's the one thing that I will tell you. To my nose, it is. I think that the nutmeg and the cardamom, I actually think this is probably one of the best takes on nutmeg that I've ever smelled. If you're a big fan of nutmeg, you have to smell Atlantic ambergris. It uses the spicy note just to perfection. And so the spicy note is extremely pronounced. It's not necessarily extremely spicy. Don't think about oud picante spicy. If you've ever smelled oud picante, there's a big amount of spice in oud picante. And in Atlantic ambergris, it is extremely spicy in the fact that there's lots of nutmeg and you know, these spicy like notes utilized, clove and stuff like that, but it's not spicy. It doesn't have that picante spice, if that makes sense. It's not like jalapeno spicy. It's just heavily the nutmeg and the clove are really turned up in this composition. And so is the cardamom in the top. That's the other thing. Cardamom, nutmeg, and clove are three, to my nose, probably like the main players that I get. And, it's interesting because they are extremely pronounced, those spicy notes. And Russian Adam actually told me that while he was making this fragrance, he had almost a little bit of like a aha moment because it came whenever he decided to add this white champaka flower to the composition. And so there is a floral heart. Okay, so that's one thing to keep in mind is there is a floral heart. So there's jasmine, there's that champaka, and there's also ylang ylang. And champaka flowers can almost give off this honeyed, caramelized, you know, slightly reminiscent of jasmine, but almost like in a caramelized like tone. And it's a very warm, heady like floral, if that makes sense. And it's funny because I've never actually gotten a compliment or really a negative compliment. I've never gotten much feedback when I wear this, except for once. There was one time that I got feedback while wearing Atlantic Ambergris, and a friend of mine said, "You smell like an earthbound trading company." And for those of you that don't have earthbound trading company stores where you live, they're basically like this hippie like store that sells things like carved and painted statues, and they're also very popular for selling these rock crystals where you're supposed to put them in your room and it's supposed to, I don't know, have some sort of weird health benefit. The rock crystals, if that makes sense. They also sell all these like hippie jewelry, crystal jewelry and stuff like that, right? They're like a hippie shop is kind of what I think of them as. So the salt crystal thing has actually got me thinking, because that's actually a pretty good, that's actually a pretty good image for the scent of Atlantic Ambergris to me. Imagine if there were a real salt crystal, and let's say there are like rocks by the ocean, and imagine this mist, sort of this fog hovering over the ocean and the water, right? And the fog sort of carries some of the molecules from the forest into the ocean, and the ocean sort of carries some of the oceanic, briny, salty molecules into the forest, right? And just imagine that interplay between, imagine the fog acting as like a condenser, or it brings notes back and forth between the two worlds, because the world of the forest is not the world of the ocean, right? The world of the ocean is not the world of the forest, but the fog sort of intermingles with it all, right? And that's sort of a great representation. If you imagine this rock crystal sitting on the water, and imagine this salt crystal that's sitting on the water, and moss has started to grow on it because it's been sitting there for so long. Because there is this mossy sort of oceanic feel, if that makes sense. There is this feeling of oldness, of ancient, there's this ancient feel to it. And just imagine that the moss has started to grow on this rock salt crystal, if you will, and it's stained from sort of the briny water. Let's say the wave sort of comes in, hits the rock, and then it comes out, and where the wave hits is maybe the same place over and over and over, and it's sort of left this stain where half the rock looks one color, half the rock looks the other color. That's the image of Atlantic Ambergris, at least in my mind. The waves coming in, this very briny sort of, and then pulling away. And if you watch my Atlantic Ambergris 2 review, I said something and I 100% agree with here. If they're 98% the same, and I think Adam's right, they are. If they're not 98%, they're 95% the same. I mean, they're very, very similar. And, to me, the fragrance was best summed up by Thomas from Early Greek. He didn't even know he was summing it up the best. He was just kind of saying what popped in his mind. But I agree exactly with what he said. He once called this fragrance, what ended up happening is Galen brought a bottle to sort of like a meetup for them, and he of course taped it for his channel and put it on there. And the very first time Thomas smelled this, he always does that bellowing, just laugh, and he's like, "This just smells like the story of life, man." And you know what? there's some truth to that. Atlantic ambergris does have this feeling of evolution and ancientness, and it just feels like the story of life. Think of the animals that decided to stay in the sea, and think of the animals that ended up leaving the sea, and sort of the evolution that's taken place. And there is a little bit of that. I mean, this fragrance will sort of get the gears turning if you're that much of a perfume nerd like I am. But there's also a touch of florals in here. So I really think this is a true unisex, middle of the road. I have no problem wearing this, but I think a woman would also have no problem wearing it because of the way that the champaka with the jasmine mixed with the ylang ylang sort of come together. There's a little bit of tonka bean absolute as well. And there's also this violet leaf. So there's violet leaf, there's this very buttery orris, and there's some sweet myrrh, which adds a little bit of this warmth. And really, to me, the sweet myrrh feels like it's warming up the spices, okay? So there is oak moss, and the oak moss sort of gives it that mossy rock feeling, right? There's also Nagamatha, or Cypriol. I have an entire This Is Not a Top 10 on Cypriol if you want to go check that out. And there's labdanum in the base. Labdanum is one of my favorite ingredients. Again, I have a labdanum video as well that you can check out as well. But the floral composition and the heart of the fragrance especially really just feels like that white. So the fragrance, the ambergris type that Russian Adam uses here is white Irish ambergris, okay? So obviously it washed up on the shores of Ireland, and so the white Irish ambergris in this, to me, just sort of adds this airy, sparkly, ethereal feel. But remember, this is an Areej Dore, and so the fragrance itself will never be airy, sparkly, and ethereal. The ambergris note feels that way, and it really feels like you know, it sort of enhances the rest of the materials. I say very similar things about orris. Orris or iris sometimes gives it this 3D feeling, and here there's both. There's orris and there's white ambergris, and you know, it really feels like the floral heart is like enhanced by the white ambergris, and you know, even though the ambergris gives it that airy, briny, salty, oceanic feel, the fragrance itself is not airy and sparkly. It's actually very spicy and heavy. And, you know, the fragrance also doesn't really feel like, you know, you go from this accord to this one, this note to that one. It really feels like the composition just comes together to create something that's truly amazing. You know, it has that feeling of all of the notes together create a fragrance that is greater than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense. So I'll read you the description real quick in closing. So according to Areej Dore website, it says that the olfactory composition dances around top quality white Irish ambergris, a precious material that is just as rare as it is mysterious and attractive. And one thing about Areej Dore, if you know anything about the house and you know anything about Russian Adam, he's obsessed with a couple ingredients: ambergris, musk, oud, and you know, ambers and stuff like that. But mostly ambergris, musk, oud, real musk, real oud, real ambergris. Those three things are things that you don't find in modern perfume anymore. And that's one of the reasons why that's what Areej Dore really brings to the table. It's not just what does real oud smell like. It's not just what does real musk smell like. It's also what does real ambergris smell like. Because a lot of times when you see ambergris in a composition, they're using some sort of like synthesized ambergris. They're using ambroxan, which can be synthesized in a lab. And that's what fragrance companies love. They love synergies. They love everything being the same. You know, they want to be able to make something today and have it smell exactly the same tomorrow. And that is 100% the opposite of this type of perfume. And that's why I think a lot of fragrance lovers really have traveled to the brand of Areej Dore. They flock to the brand of Areej Dore because you don't get this from the brands you see at Macy's. And it doesn't matter what the brand it is. And that's the thing. People are so tired of going to a brand and buying a brand and thinking they're getting something different, and only to learn LVMH already owns them, you know, or something like that. And so that's where this type of perfumery has really it's grabbed me. And so it says, Needless to say, it is nearly absent in large-scale modern perfumery. There you go. Due to its high cost and scarcity. Most of the time it is replaced by synthetic alternatives or lower quality gray and black ambergris, which often have an unpleasant aroma. They're not even doing that most of the time. They're just going straight to the synthetics. Top quality, highly matured white ambergris, on the other hand, has no off notes. Its aroma is pristine, fluffy, silky, slightly powdery, sweet, and earthy, with a bottomless oceanic depth that is truly unique. However, it is not merely the scent that matters. High-grade white ambergris, when used wisely, is known to produce an amazing uplifting influence on other aromatics. So that's kind of what I was getting at, is it does create this uplifting feeling on the rest of the notes as well. So when you smell the nutmeg, the ylang, the champaka, you know, the Russian pine note in the top, everything feels like it's uplifted, like that fog that I mentioned that sort of interplays, that mist that goes from the ocean into the forest brings, you know, sense that when you're standing in the forest and you smell them together, you never would, you know, realize if you were just standing in the forest without the mist or without the fog bringing elements of the ambergris, let's say, from the sea. That's a good description of the scent. But along the way, it sort of crosses those mossy rocks like we talked about earlier. And it's a very, so according to the brand, it says, the florals especially lead to a breathtaking 3D effect and an unmatchable olfactory experience. And that comes from the ambergris. The synergy of fresh floral, spicy, and green notes along with ambergris's golden touch indeed creates an amazing sensation. Apart from the absolute olfactory sensation, it may cause an intense and unusual reaction on a deeper level. Atlantic ambergris utilizes the exceptional top, middle, and base notes that are mentioned above. However, the glory of this composition resides in the coexistence, marriage, and synergy of these notes, where every individual element loses its personality and dies. Then, all of a sudden, all of the separate components are reborn into a single olfactory and emotional explosion that is full of beautiful nuances, elegant turns, smooth corners, ups and downs. Consider how an ocean wave begins its journey, seemingly from nowhere, and commences, breathing, vibrating gradually and graciously growing until it reaches the size of a mountain, only to collapse and dissolve in seconds, leaving a huge and lasting impression on whoever decides to face it. So too will the emotional olfactory wave of Atlantic ambergris affect you. Once the ocean is calm, we hope to meet you in the secret place, the place where, thrown by the waves, lost Atlantic ambergris lays. Beautiful write-up. I don't think I read that last time when I did part 2, my review on part 2. So interesting. You know, it's a very interesting composition, and I enjoy wearing it. And all of this stuff, you know, I have said pretty much nothing but good things about it. However, I will say the other side of the coin. The other side of the coin for me is this. If I was ranking what my Areej Dore fragrance full bottles would be, okay? If I could get the ones I really want, if I could get the Malik Al Taifs, and if I could get the Oud Luwaks, and if I could get the, you know, those type of rankings, let's say, this would probably be towards the bottom of that ranking. Unfortunately, if I could get a full bottle of Oud Zen, I would get it over this. If I could get a full bottle of Oud Luwak, I would take it over this. If I could get a full bottle of Malik Al Taif, I'd take it over this, you know. And so for me, it sort of just sits, even though I enjoy the composition and I would love a bottle, I would never pay $500 for a bottle. It's just not, I would use that money elsewhere, most likely, is my guess. There are other Russian Atom compositions that I want first. There's also that collaboration with Bojnokopff that I would probably put ahead of this, as I'm becoming much more into ouds. Do I like the Ambergris Accord? Yes. Does it do all the things that I've said and read and everything? 100%. That's come straight from the heart. That's how I feel. But would I get this over some of the other compositions? No, I would not. That's the downside for me, is that while I like it and I enjoy it, it doesn't do anything for me where I'm going to put it ahead of things like Oud Zen or these others, which I would love to have, right? So that's my take on Atlantic Ambergris. And unfortunately, it is the end of Areej Dore week. I hope you guys enjoyed Areej week. It's been great for me getting to wear the fragrances like this that I love. Tomorrow, we're going to go back to doing a list. I know it's been a while since we've done a list. I'm sure a lot of folks missed the list, so we'll go back to the list tomorrow. Let me know what your favorite from the unboxing was, whether it was the Opulent Shaik Gold, the Halfeti Cedar, the Bojnokopff Purple Hat, the Calling by Phuong, or the Pavarotti. I'm stoked to have a backup of Pavarotti. I get to just spray the hell out of this now. So, let me know what your favorite from the unboxing is. And let me, if you've tried Atlantic Ambergris, please, I'd love to know your thoughts. Love to know if you agree, disagree. Leave a comment. I said it before, I'll say it again. I try to respond to every single comment if I get a chance, and I learn more from you guys than you do from me. So please leave a comment. Just say hi. Tell me what you think of the video. I will respond. I respond to every single comment. So it's always a pleasure doing these. I hope you had a great time with Areej the Dore week, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.